Hello, welcome friends. In this lecture, we're going to discuss few gate model questions on transmission line concepts. So the first question is, a 400 kV transmission line is having per phase line inductance of 1.1 millihenry per kilometer and per phase line capacitance of 11.78 nanofarad per kilometer. Ignoring the length of line, its ideal power transfer capability in megawatt is. So in this question, he has given per phase inductance and per phase capacitance of the transmission line, and he's asking ideal transfer capacity. What is ideal power transfer capacity? It is nothing but the surge impedance loading of that particular transmission line. So what is the formula for surge impedance loading? SIL is given by V square by ZC. Surge impedance loading is given by V square by ZC. What is V? V is the transmission line voltage and ZC is the characteristic impedance of the transmission line. So what is the formula for ZC? First we have to calculate ZC. ZC is given by, in this case, it is square root of L by C because it is a lossless transmission line. So ZC is given by square root of L by C. With the given value substituted, what is the L value he has given? 1.1 into 10 power minus 3 because he has given in millihenry per kilometer. And what is the value of per phase line capacitance? It is 11.78 into 10 to the power of minus 9. So if you compute this one, you're going to get the value as how much? You're going to get the value as 305.58 so many ohm. So this is the characteristic impedance of the transmission line. Now, what is the SIL surge impedance loading or ideal power transfer capacity of the line? It is V square by ZC. So what is V square? The transmission line voltage is 400 kV square divided by ZC is how much? 3.58 so many ohm. So the unit here is kV square divided by ohm. So it will directly come in megawatts. So this value would become how much? 523.59 so many megawatt. So this is the answer for this question. So option D is the right option. Here one thing I want to specify is that whenever you are calculating SIL, or the voltage must be substituted as line to line RMS voltage, and ZC is the characteristic impedance in ohm. Okay, and one more important point which I want to tell, there is a subtle difference between characteristic impedance and surge impedance, because characteristic impedance is a term that is used for both lossless line and a attenuated line, that is normal transmission line which has resistance. But the term surge impedance is used only for a lossless line where we have neglected the series resistance of transmission line and shunt conductance of transmission line. Next. So the next question in the lecture is, the series capacitive compensation in extra high voltage transmission lines is used to. Why we use the series capacitive compensation in the EHV transmission line? See, once you do the series capacitive compensation, that means what you are reducing, once you are adding a series capacitor, you are reducing the overall. Suppose this is the receiving end, this is the sending end. What is happening? The overall transfer reactance between sending end and the receiving end is being reduced. So if you calculate the power transfer formula for a lossless line, then the formula is mod Vs into mod Vr divided by mod Xt, where Xt is the transfer reactant into sine delta. So now in this power transfer equation, if we reduce the overall transfer reactance by adding a series capacitive compensation, what will happen? We can transfer more power to the receiving end for the same delta value. For the same delta value, we can transfer more power to the receiving end. Suppose if we want to transfer the same amount of power after doing series capacitive compensation, then this delta value will decrease. So by doing series capacitive compensation, we can transfer the same amount of power to the receiving end at a lower delta value. So lesser is the delta value, greater is the stability of the power system. So series capacitive compensation, what it will do? It will improve the stability of the power system. Okay. So one thing I want to tell you, what is delta? Delta is the power angle difference. Power angle difference between sending end voltage and receiving end voltage. Understand? Okay. Next, third question in this lecture is, a overhead line is having a surge impedance of 400 ohm, is connected in series with an underground cable having a surge impedance of 100 ohm. If a surge of 100 kV travels from the line towards the cable junction, the value of reflected voltage at the junction is. So in the question, what he is telling, there is a overhead transmission line which is terminated by what? Which is terminated by a underground cable. Okay. So from here, a surge of 100 kV is traveling. It is traveling through the line and then it is entering the cable. So now the question is, at the receiving end, what is the reflected voltage wave? That is the question. So what is the characteristic impedance of the line? The characteristic impedance of line is how much? 400 ohm. The characteristic impedance of cable is how much? It is 100 ohm. Understand? Now, what is the formula for reflected voltage? So if we use the term V for incident voltage and V dash for reflected voltage, then the formula boils down to V dash is equals to ZL minus ZC divided by ZL plus ZC into V. Understand? Here, what is ZL? ZL is the load impedance or the impedance which the overhead line is terminated with. So in this case, what it will become? ZL is equals to Z cable. This value is 100 ohm. Now, what is ZC? ZC is the characteristic impedance of the overhead line, which in this case is 400 ohm. I am reiterating the fact. Here in this formula, ZL is the impedance with which the overhead line is terminated. In this case, the overhead line is terminated with an underground cable whose impedance value is 100 ohm. So that's why ZL, that is equals to Z cable, is equals to 100 ohm, and ZC is the characteristic impedance of overhead line, which in this case is 400 ohm. If you substitute these values, what you're going to get? So your V dash will become how much? 100 minus 400 divided by 100 plus 400 into what is the incident voltage? Incident voltage is 100 kV. So if you substitute this one, you're going to get this value as, this is minus 60 kV. So your reflected voltage wave is 60 kV. Suppose if you want to know refracted voltage, you know V double dash is equals to V plus V dash. So this value will become how much? 100 plus of minus 60 kV. This value boils down to 40 kV. So 100 kV is the incident voltage. So reflected voltage is how much? Minus 60 kV. And what is the voltage that is propagating into the cable? That is refracted voltage. Its value is 40 kV. That is the answer. Now the fourth question. Corona losses are minimized when? So these are the four conditions we have given. So firstly, what you have to remember, the corona losses or the phenomenon of corona occurs due to high electric field intensity at the surface of the conductor. Due to high electric field intensity at the surface of the conductor. So what is the formula for electric field intensity at the surface of conductor? It is given by voltage of the conductor divided by R into logarithm of D by R. Understand? So electric field intensity at the surface of the overhead transmission line conductor is given by Vc, voltage of that conductor, divided by R into logarithm of D by R, where R is the radius of conductor and D is the spacing between two conductors in overhead line. Next, Vc is what? Vc is the phase to neutral RMS voltage of conductor. Understand? So now this is the formula for the electric field intensity at the surface of the conductor. Now what happens? So more is this electric field intensity, more is the corona. So this corona is directly proportional to the electric field intensity. So to reduce the corona loss, what we can do? To reduce the corona loss, the practical method which we adopt is what? Conductor. We increase the size of conductor, so the denominator gets increased and overall the value gets reduced. So if you increase the size of conductor, the corona will decrease and corona loss will decrease. Now what he is telling? So he is telling the same thing indirectly in this fourth one. What is the current density? Current density in any conductor is current flowing through the conductor divided by area of cross section. So for the same current, if you increase the size of conductor, so what will happen? Your current density will decrease. So if you increase the size of conductor, if size of conductor increases, then what will happen? For the same current, your current density will decrease. So if you decrease the current density, what will happen? Then that means the conductor size is increased. So if you increase the size of conductor, then what you can observe? The electric field intensity at the surface of conductor is reduced. So corona is reduced. So once the corona is reduced, corona losses are also minimized. So D is the right option. Now the fifth question is, a lossless radial transmission line with loading greater than surge impedance loading, what will happen? So if you load a lossless transmission line with a loading greater than surge impedance loading, what will happen? See, this is the normal loading that we use. This is the most economical or practical loading. That means we always load our transmission line greater than the SIL for the economic reasons. So what is the normal scenario? When we load the transmission line more than is SIL, it acts as an inductor. It behaves. The transmission line behavior is like inductor. So what are the properties that are applicable? So inductor takes positive VAR at sending end and acts like a inductor. So this is the behavior of the transmission. So one thing which I want to tell you is that if loading of transmission line, if it equals to SIL, if the loading of transmission line is equal to SIL, then what will happen? It neither absorbs reactive power nor supplies reactive power. It is an ideal situation where you will get option C is the right option. That means it has a flat voltage profile. It has a flat voltage profile and unity power factor at all points along it. If the loading is equals to SIL, then C would have been the right option. Suppose if loading is greater than SIL, as in this question, it acts as what? It acts as transmission line acts as inductor. So what does inductor do? It takes positive reactive power and acts as an inductor. Suppose if loading is less than SIL, the transmission line acts as a capacitor. Understand? So this is a case if the loading is equals to SIL, it is in resonance. So in resonance, you can observe the power factor of the circuit, the power factor of the networks become unity, and it has a flat voltage profile. Understand? Because it is a lossless line. The next question, a lossless transmission line is having a surge impedance loading of 2280 megawatt. A series capacitive compensation of 30% is placed. The surge impedance loading of the compensated line. See, the basic formula of surge impedance loading is V square by ZC. So when you do series capacitive compensation, what is the impact on characteristic impedance? That is more important here. So ZC modified value after compensation, ZC modified will be equal to ZC old into 1 by KSEC. So this is how the characteristic impedance is impacted when you do series capacitive compensation. So in this relation, what is KSEC? KSEC is the per unit series capacitive compensation. So what is the value here? 30% is the percentage compensation. So per unit compensation becomes 0.3. So your ZC modified value will become how much? Your ZC modified value will become ZC old into 1 minus 0.3, that is square root of 0.7. So your new surge impedance SIL new will become how much? V square into ZC, what is the value, into root 0.7. We already know the old surge impedance loading without compensation. What is its value? It is given as 2280 megawatt. So after compensation, this value will become, if you substitute V square by ZC as this one, 2280 divided by root of 0.7, 2725.12 megawatt. So which is the right option? Option C is the right option. Now, for equilateral spacing of conductors of an untransposed three-phase line, we have what? So, when you place the three conductors in the form of equilateral triangle, when you place three conductors in the form of equilateral triangle, that is, if you maintain the spatial symmetry between the three conductors of a transmission line, then if the power system is operating under balanced condition, you need not do any transposition, because by virtue of their symmetry, there is no residual flux left in the vicinity of any of these transmission conductors. That means if you place the three conductors in the form of equilateral triangle, then you need not transpose the power line or communication line, because there is no residual time varying flux that is present in the vicinity of this transmission system. So in this case, what happens, if your power system is balanced, and that is, it is operating under normal operating conditions, then your sending end voltages are balanced, your receiving end voltages are balanced, the overall drops in the transmission lines are same, and there is no communication interference. So what is the right option in this case? Option A is the right option. You will get balanced receiving end voltages and there is no communication interference. One thing, transposition is only required when the conductors are placed in straight line configuration, either horizontally or vertically, then only we have to do transposition. If they are placed in the form of a equilateral triangle, there is no need to do any transposition of transmission lines.